for a house.
All right, what's up, everybody? We have an extra special Friday Mastermind. We've got a guest. Have you ever been a guest on the Friday Mastermind?
I don't think I've ever done the Friday Mastermind. We've done a couple things back in the day specifically for producing branch managers.
Right.
But I think this is like my first time.
So Dustin Owen, he is one of the top YouTube podcasters. He's got the second most followed YouTube channel in the mortgage space.
For now, second. For now, challenge accepted, Dave.
Yeah, a couple years ago, I was like, what are the top YouTube channels? And like literally, I was like, holy shit, this is like, by the way, it's an incredible YouTube channel. If you are a mortgage professional, whether you're new, whether you're closing over 100 million, it is tremendous value.
You know the best part about it, and our buddy Amir says this, it's free 99. Like all that content, all that coaching, all that education is free 99, or as my co-host John Coleman would say, if it's free, it's for me. So yeah, check it out. It doesn't suck, I promise you that.
Right on. And I am here with Todd Bookspan. We both had the honor of speaking at a sales rally, Novus Home Loans, had us both doing keynotes. So we're both here together. What's up, brother?
It was fun. It was fun, back to back. Dave, Dave set the stage for me. I had to come on there and, try not to suck after the job you did delivering a great message.
I gave him one incredible opening. We have Kristin Messerli, who does not join us enough. The executive director of First Home IQ. What's up, Kristin?
What's up? Excited to be here today. Big house we've got here.
Yeah, we do. And an audience, we want you to ask us questions. We've got more people to answer them than normally. Because we do have a special, well, we really have two special guests. We have Kristin and we have Dustin. D Bird, anything you want to say to set up the topic and get the party started?
Well, this is just your 4-week reminder to the men on the call that you have 4 weeks until Valentine's Day. So after this call, go get your reservations before they're all booked so that you're not that, dog who forgot and you're at like CC's Pizza. So 4 weeks from today.
What's your recommendation for us, Deborah? What kind of food should we be booking this year?
You know me, I like chicken tendies and French fries. So
all right.
No, steak and potatoes for me.
All right. Well, thank you for that. By the way, that did help me. I think I will get a reservation. I'll be looking
Trying to help y'all out. Make
that
weekend extra special, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, we know what you mean. So dude, you came up with the topic.
Yes.
Realtors are going to be a little, they're going to matter less, is how you put it.
That's my thought. It's a little bit my fear, but at the same time, it's my excitement.
Yeah.
And I didn't come up with this topic alone. I was masterminding with a co-worker of mine. Shout out to Nick Gallagher over at Lower. And, Nick and I were having a conversation. What I've learned about making content, I'm sure you all have as well, is, and I know Deb teaches this, but the minute you start creating content, you realize content's all around you, right? Your reticular activator's turned on. So creating content the past 5 years, I took a conversation I had with a colleague, right? This is a guy who runs billion-dollar division in the mortgage space. And he was like, hey, look, I'm really worried that if I fast forward just 3 to 5 years down the road, realtors, who I have deemed my #1 client for the past 2 decades, will have less influence over the purchase transaction, at which point am I going to need to reassess my marketing efforts? Mm-hmm. And as I gave it more thought, John Coleman and I sat down. We actually recorded an entire episode. So I talk about this for 45 consistent minutes on an episode we dropped, I think, this week.
We'll put a link down below. What was the title of the episode?
You think I would know that? But I have a producer extraordinaire who knows that.
Down below in show notes to 45 minutes.
Yeah, YouTube, Spotify, Apple. I'm sure it's something that's, macked out with SEO and some cool CTAs and descriptions. But it's something along the lines of, will realtors matter less? So I'm a huge proponent. I didn't come up with this because I'm not smart enough to come up with most things. But the saying, if it's true, it's not new. And if it's new, it's not true, right? So anything I've ever done and I've coached, I need to make sure, is this true? And then I also like to follow Pareto's principle, which we all know that as the 80-20 rule. But I have what's called DO's principle. And DO is what my friends call me. First name Dustin, last name Owen, my initials, right? So DO's principle is 80% of what we do needs to be true, but 20% needs to be focused on the new. So I coached several hundred originators for a living, whether that's internal or external. Plus I get to travel the country speaking, and I'm trying to encourage everyone to continue doing the things that we know work, but we need to be marching towards 2030 thinking, what if? Mm-hmm. What if it ends up becoming a race to the consumer And do we have the running shoes necessary? And are we in the right shape that we can compete in that race? So then I started putting some data behind it. There's companies like Trust Engine who are data aggregators, who are mining data and letting mortgage companies know when someone's going to be most likely to need another home, most likely to sell, most likely to need a refinance. Then I started thinking, well, who owns all the data? The banks do, the servicers do. Then I started thinking about companies, and shout out to my buddy Doug Long over at Planet Home Lending. Most of us don't compete against Planet Home Lending right now. They're a massive aggregator. They purchase servicing from the big mortgage companies. But what happens when Planet Home Lending or a company like that owns all the data? Will Planet Home Lending be getting in front of a home seller before that home seller really even knows that they want to sell their home? And then finally, I kind of wrapped up my entire episode based on this fact, which is something that I read in a book, and it was based on a study of pregnant women in the retail store Target. Well, Target, who has data on millions of consumers, can study that data, and it's been proven that they know that a woman is pregnant before she knows, based on her shopping habit behavior changing. At which point, 2 or 3 weeks before she goes and pees on the stick, she's getting advertisements in her Gmail for only things that somebody who was a expected mother would be purchasing. And I just, like, common sense tells me if that's happening at Target, and we have banks and aggregators and servicers who own all this data, and there's companies like Trust Engine who can help us mine that data, yeah, I can either evolve, or, as our buddy Kai McBride would say, I could die.
Yeah.
So my call to action to all originators is, hey, let's still focus on the true, but maybe, just maybe, it'll benefit us to also be focused on some of the new, because it very well could be a race to the consumer. And then lastly, let's not forget about the NAR commission settlement lawsuit.
Right.
And let's not forget about how consumer behavior is changing. So that's in a nutshell when I pose the question, will realtors matter less for our business moving forward? I think the likelihood is at the highest it's ever been in my past 20 years of being in this industry.
Yeah, and I could pile on that. I mean, the only kind of edits I have to what you say is I don't think it's a race to 2030. I think it's a race to 2027.
Wow.
I think change is accelerating, and I do believe that we need to get on the offense and get into the database. Kristin, I would love to get your perspective from a next-gen consumer perspective, and just the trends that are taking place with first-time home buyers, and will realtors matter less? And then also, to me, it's not about or realtors mattering less. It's about mortgage professionals mattering more.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, this is an interesting time to have this topic because I'm considering a move, and I was talking with two different realtors this week, and just kind of going through that process. The seller agent was, like, helping me think through everything I need to prepare the home to sell, and the buyer's agent just absolutely blew me out. Blew my mind. She was so incredible taking me through this, and questionnaire, and I thought, okay, I have this is so crucial. I've never felt my realtor was more important to me than in this experience of guiding me through what neighborhoods, and just her whole approach. So anyway, my perspective right now is wow, the realtor is so important to me, but we are gathering our data for the 2025 report as we speak, and there's some information in there. What we've seen, at least trending, is around this growing distrust for both realtors and lenders, and the desire to have their own process, follow, to be empowered as a consumer to make decisions for themselves. And I think the more that that realtors or lenders and loan officers can come alongside them with that and empower them with information, they're going to feel like they can trust them more. So anyway, that's kind of my perspective as we're talking about this.
Yeah, another thought that came to my mind is on this topic is that most realtors will matter less. Someone who is a guide and a true pro and is adding value beyond the transaction. Like, this isn't a person that's
Yeah.
she was adding value beyond the transaction. So it's like most realtors will matter less, and some loan officers will matter more.
Yeah.
And I know anyone watching this, I think you want to be
Well-
the mortgage professional that matters more.
Well, I think it's important to quantify realtors in general matter still big time in the transaction. When I say, well, realtors matter less, I'm thinking as a loan originator, that realtor's been my best referral source. But in the future, will they matter less to me because maybe I become the realtor's best referral source? I mean, what if, I mean, this is a little bit of a dream. What if the role gets flipped? What if they're taking me to coffee, buying me donuts? Because I became so great at dominating, by the way, my community. I love content. I love everything that D-Bird teaches, preaches, the service that she provides. But I don't believe we ever have to become TikTok famous. In fact, TikTok may be banned by tomorrow. Who knows? But we don't need to do anything besides get deeper with the communities we serve, right? This is why I love First Home IQ. It's all about serving your community, being your local community expert. But my thought is between the company I'm aligned with and my own personal marketing efforts, my personal brand, am I creating the right content, getting deep enough with the 15 to 2,500 people I serve that they're going to start coming to me first? I'm going to be leveraging the right technology that I know that this person has a 95% probability of selling their home in the next 90 days. So I start calling them. And then all of a sudden they're telling me, yes, we had this life event. We're going to be putting our house on the market, at which point I can say, who are you planning on using to represent you selling your house? What are you doing about the purchase? And now it's not that realtors don't matter to that seller, to that buyer. It just means as a lender, they may matter a lot less to me. It may be the onus is on my team and I to go out and actually be the source of information, be the first contact. That excites me. Like, as much as it could scare me saying I spent 20 years calling on realtors, building relationships, they're my number one and number two best referral source. That is scary to think they could go away, but it's empowering thinking about what if I was the truth and the source and I was where the transaction started. I wouldn't mind having a couple free cups of coffee a week.
Well, let's do this. One, I want to get your thoughts on this, Todd, and then let's go through strategies so that a mortgage professional can matter more, and we can have a list of realtors calling on us. Like, what could we do to do that? And I have some ideas on that. Todd?
Well, I mean, you kind of nailed it, right? You have to have a company that is helping you out with the data, right, Dave? That's what you talked about from the stage, that your company, if they work with Trust Engine, that they're helping give you the data on your clients that we won't have, right? I don't
Right.
know, I'm not Target, I don't know who's getting pregnant, right? But certainly there's tools out there like Trust Engine that are going to help me do that from a technology perspective. And then I like the idea of the community side of it, which I think is, you need to be digging in on your community, pouring in more. And what I've enjoyed about it, right? I'm doing my 10-week classes on financial literacy with all the First Home IQ content. It gave me a reason to reach out to people. And so, I've always been the annual mortgage review guy. And so I always believe that I'm going to have a relationship with these clients, and because my relationship, then I'm going to know as well. And so I think if you have the relationship, you have the community, and you have the technology, I think that's how you're going to win going forward. And then I think the fourth thing, Deborah, you would say it is going to be personal brand, right? You have to also be developing that personal brand. So that way, when somebody's thinking about it, they go, oh my gosh, you know what? I've seen Dustin in my feed all this time. He's a mortgage guy. I better reach out to him.
Yeah. So Chris,
That's really what social is when you say technology, community, deepening relationships. And I would almost, a lot of the clients that we work with, their number one referral source when done correctly is their database. If you keep a database, you're constantly looking to add to the database, you maintain it, you nurture it, you offer classes, you have world-class service. I mean, when you think about it, the number one referral source for real estate agents, according to NAR, is their sphere of influence. It's referrals. So why do we stop communicating to our database once the loan funds? In fact, I see marketing where it shows like, here's the mortgage process, and the very end of the process is the closing and funding day. And I'm like, well, it shouldn't. You should still have that continue if you're doing the annual mortgage reviews. It's a 30-year, commitment and relationship, but we don't treat a lot of times our database as the number one source, in my opinion. But the top producers, they will say that most of their business will come from repeat referrals.
Well, let me share some data points. Kristin, I want you at some point in this section to really make a case for being the first home IQ advocate and ambassador. And I think when I show some data and slides, it'll make sense here. So I'm going to make a case with data that what Dustin is saying is absolutely true. So first of all, home ownership in America is and who owns and who rents is the front line of both the wealth gap in America, and it's never been harder to become a first-time home buyer. So, and by the way, the numbers I'm hearing is that in 2022, I mean, this is the data, but in 2025, it's more like about 420,000 increase in net worth, the difference between owning and renting. And then this is just the data, guys. It's getting harder to get into home ownership. And by the way, are the realtors the ones that are really helping first-time home buyers get into home ownership? No, it's the mortgage professional. Like, it's up to the mortgage professional to come up with creative ways to get people to qualify. Yes, partnership between mortgage can help people get into home ownership. But guys, for over 40 years, the average age of first-time home buyer at lowest was 29. For 40 years, it was like 31, 32, 31, 32, 30. And then in 2020, it went up to 33. In 2023, it went up to 35. And last year, it was 38. So the mortgage professional can address this. Here's the other thing, guys. There's never been more debt than there is right now in America. Credit card debt, student loan debt. That's not up to real estate professionals to solve creatively for consumers. There's never been more equity than there is today in America. And guys, take a picture of this slide. Use this at your next realtor meeting. For 40 years, like this line right here is equity in America. It always followed very closely to the amount of outstanding mortgage debt. Always. Like, and then in 2016, it started to go up. And then it's exploded. It is 2.5, not 2.5, over 2 times more equity than debt in America. No realtor has ever faced this opportunity. By the way, who is the one that can help solve this? It's the mortgage professionals. And then here's the other point. Guys, over 60% of mortgages start with a 2, 3, or a 4. Like, all the mortgage. So the realtor needs mortgage people who can help solve this problem. So, any thoughts to that?
Well, I love the data. I mean, at the end of the day, numbers don't lie. And the data just reminds all of us that we play a pivotal role in American society, but starting with the communities we serve. We are the educators. We are the source of information. And for most of them, we are the closest thing to a financial advisor they'll ever sit down with. And you and I have talked about that for years now, where, I mean, I know this for firsthand, like my financial advisor is not going to want a referral unless that person has $250,000 of investable assets. Well, to all of the loan originators, all 100 plus that are tuning in live and the 200 plus that'll tune in later down the road, I mean, we look at loan applications all day. Whether you call it an IRLO or a 1003, it's all the same to me. But very rarely do I see someone with 250 grand of investable assets. They may have 250 grand of equity if they're lucky. They may have a couple hundred grand in a 401k if they're fortunate. So we have to be that, and we have to be the problem solvers. We have to be the men and women who find a way to yes, and then obviously who hold their hand throughout the transaction.
Absolutely. Anything you want to add, Todd?
I mean, I think you're spot on. I mean, ultimately in the end, it's the data matters to you, but it's how you then relay that message to the real estate agents, right? They hear loan officers talk and they hear loan officers talk and they hear loan officers talk. And it's kind of like, the teacher and Charlie Brown. But data actually is the way that you validate what it is that you're talking about. And it makes you look different if you're using data to discuss your point, to help their clients take action.
Yeah. And then the topic that we're talking on, to me, is every reason why I need to get one-to-many. I mean, we're doing a one-to-many right now, but how many loan originators are dominating the one-to-many? How many of them are creating content? And how many of them are getting deep with their database? Again, we don't have to go wide. I mean, 1,500 people, like, start running the math. And I don't have my HP 12C in front of me, but if you had 1,500 people in your database, and we know that 63% are homeowners or want to be homeowners, somewhere in that ballpark range. So let's just say 900. And then I know that statistically, if I had 900 people who either are homeowners or want to be homeowners, 1 in 7 are obtaining a home loan every year. Now, it could be a HELOC in today's day and age that we convert to a cash out refi in 2 years. And shout out to Jeremy Forcier, who on a call like this was encouraging the audience to not be afraid to do a HELOC today so they can do a cash out refi in 2 years. But nonetheless, let's divide, get out that HP12C and divide 7 into 900. It'll give you a number north of 120.
Right.
That means if you know 1,500 people, which most of us within our Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram have that, all I have to do is go deep enough with those, and it opens up over 120 transactions. Now, if I understand that my net worth is the sum of my network, well, what happens when you expand that network from 1,500 to 3,000? Now, all of a sudden, you run the same math, and you have 200 transactions at your disposal.
Well, let me throw something in there. So when I did my first of the first Home IQ courses, the second one is going to be next Wednesday night. When I did the first one, half the audience were my target, which were kids, right? And then the other half was split up between parents of the kids, who were mainly realtors and loan officers. It was split up with loan officers, a lot of you that are trying to see what it is that I'm doing. And then the rest were real estate agents. And they were real estate agents that I knew, and there were real estate agents I didn't know. And I already have had real estate agents who want me to come alongside of them and teach the class live to their database. So the easiest way that I know that I can scale my business, my team's business, this year is actually because I'm going to use their database in order to scale. So, right, take their database, add it to my team's database, divide it by that 7, and boom, it's going to go up because it's a great opportunity. So it made me smile to see all you loan officers on there, because I'm hoping that you'll all jump in and support us with First Home IQ.
Yeah, we're going to have to like drill down on this strategy for a few minutes. Deborah, it looked like you wanted to say something, and then Chris,
that's exactly what I was going to ask him is, you know, as Dustin was talking about going to one to many and going deep and starting with your community, and you're talking about data, Dave, and how do you present the data? And so I was going to ask you, Todd, like, what is the one, you set up this 10-week course, you're using the curriculum from First Home IQ. And I was going to ask you, what is your whole, like, what is the goal and the motive behind it of like who's signed up, who's attending, and what do they receive basically at the end of the 10 weeks?
Well, they're going to be really knowledgeable at the end of 10 weeks. That's going to be amazing.
I don't doubt that.
There's going to be no doubt. You know, it's multifaceted. I'll be super transparent. Number one is that I wanted to provide the value for my database, right? I told y'all last year I did about 50 annual mortgage reviews over the summer, and believe it or not, the people that I worked with in the past still like me and were interested. And they would say, "Well, what are you up to?" And I said, "Oh, I'm really excited. I co-founded this First Home IQ nonprofit with 2 of my friends. And we've got great support from the mortgage industry." And I would tell them about it, and they go, "Gosh, I wish I had that knowledge." So I'd made a commitment then that I would teach it and roll it out to the database. And then, you know, as we've been trying to scale this, I mean, one of the conversations that I had with Kristin was a lot of the ambassadors hadn't taught it, and they really wanted to see an example of it. So it gave me an opportunity to record content that ambassadors can use in a roadmap for them to use from me doing it, and an example of someone teaching it, so that they have that. You know, I can give feedback on the curriculum, which so far I don't have any. It's amazing. And then ultimately, in the end, I actually want to use it for business development for my team. And then the real estate piece became really evident, because as I started telling real estate agents I was going to do this, they're like, "Oh, great, can you do it for me?" And so it's a huge opportunity. And so I think it's just one of these pieces where, you know, number one, it makes me feel good, certainly, but it's actually going to have impact on kids. It's going to have impact on the kids of all these people that I care about.
I didn't even think about partnering with the agents and doing like a separate course with just like you and the agent, and you're leveraging their database. Like, that's genius.
You know, I am pretty smart, Deborah Bird.
You amaze me every day with your walk and talks and all.
Can you, out of curiosity, I should know this as a founder friend, can I take the First Home IQ data coursework, and can I go out and certify my realtor partners in the market that I currently work? Is that a question for Kristin?
I love that idea. We talked about like when you complete the courses, getting a certification. So anyway, but I love that idea. That would be something that would, because we have a lot of people that leverage First Home IQ with realtor partners, and it's a way to say like, let me add value to your network. And so yeah, let's do that.
Because like think about our friend Phil Jones, right? So D Bird, she is a certified coach under exactly what to say.
So is Todd.
So is Todd.
Yeah, that's what I was
Uh,
teaching yesterday.
Well, oh, Deborah, now I don't take you to lunch. I'll just pick Todd's brain while I have him here. But
Yeah, I know. I have them fill in for my place all the time.
Exactly. I was Deb's substitute here.
Okay,
So
but
it's all good.
but the same manner that Maxwell's done it, right? Or now Phil's doing it. Could First Home IQ put ambassadors or members in the community and then empower them with the content to go and do a 6-week course for other business professionals and have them be certified? It's a great way for me as an originator or a branch manager to build relationships with the top realtors in my market, but then to give them something to go talk about to all of the communities that they serve.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And what I'm most excited about with what Todd's doing is that people can follow exactly what he did and is doing. And we're also not just recording it, but we're creating a presentation guide for every presentation that we have in the 10-week curriculum. And so, we have like emails and templates and things like that of how to end a presentation kit of like, here, if you want to do this, here's how you can market it. But it's still that next step of like, what do I do to really see results? And I think it's bringing in the partners, and how do you, not just do this presentation once, but actually be a community leader with the partners that you know and have relationships with.
So someone just asked, this is recorded. It'll be up at our YouTube channel within a couple hours. So Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe to that. So we just covered a strategy that could literally make realtors less important to you today. Like you don't have to wait till 2027. You could become this local community leader. You could become someone that reaches into their database, that supports a community, that helps families help get their kids into homeownership faster. Like every parent in America wants to see their kids achieve homeownership younger and faster. Some parents have the means to financially help them. All parents have the needs to educationally help them. So if you started putting on these events, Todd's already doing it. I spoke at the sales rally yesterday. Andy Zeman, one of the top loan officers at Novus, came up to me and he's like, you know what? My big takeaway was that I need to start reaching into my database and doing first-time home buyer seminars, not just for first-time home buyers, but for families. Because there's a lot of families that just don't know that they can help their kids. So
can I put on my coach hat and I want to put on my mortgage advocate hat?
go.
All right. But before I do, I need to call this out. I think the three of us kind of look like that scene in Tommy Boy, the fat man in a little coat. You got these three big dudes all tied in really tight so we can be on camera together. But it is a cool experience. We are in my studio in Orlando. So we have the studio backdrop behind us. We got the big bright lights on.
We couldn't resist.
But then there's times I'm like, wow, my knee is rubbing up on Todd's knee, my
Wow.
elbow to Dave's back. Oh yeah, it's pretty intimate right now. So I just kind of want to call it to the forefront.
Who's the big spoon and the small spoon tonight is all I want to know.
Depends on how cold it gets, Deb.
Okay.
It all depends on how cold it gets. Thank God it's Orlando, Florida, and we're not like up in the Midwest somewhere. So no, so coach's hat, and I heard Todd say two things that I was just like, yes. First and foremost, we need to be having client for life conversations at every home buying consultation. Okay, so you have to set the stage up front when the lead comes in that you will be their client for life. That's, I think, what Deb, you were getting at. Like so many originators think the relationship ends when the transaction funds, and most of us are like, no, that's when it begins. But we have to set the stage, and we set it up front, home buying consultation. If you notice, I call it a home buying consultation because that makes sense to the communities we serve. Pre-quals only make sense to other originators. So let's quit making content and using vernacular that only our competition understands. So that's my little thank you 1 minute coach's hat. Take that off, almost like a call to action. So I'm 21 years in this industry, and then let's go back and say I've studied it for the previous decade before I entered it. Over the past 10 to 15 years, servicers and banks have been, I would say, non-competition. A servicer was capturing 18% of their servicing portfolio, and banks, hey, to all my bank LOs out there, like nothing but love, but it tended to be an easier person to go up against to win the transaction, win the relationship. But today, they own the data. We don't own the data. for most of us. Look at the top 100 lenders. We don't. Like maybe UWM does, maybe Rocket does, but Chase, they got data. Wells, they got data. The biggest aggregators, the servicers, they have data. And if we turn a blind eye or put our head in the sand, I think we're doing ourselves a big disservice. We have to understand that our call to action needs to be, I've never really had to compete against a bank for the past 10 years. I've never really had to compete against a servicer for the past 10 years. But in just 2 years or possibly 5, I'm going to have to. What am I doing today that's going to put myself in the driver's seat so that I can compete and get my fair share so that I can earn a living doing something I love doing?
Yeah, and I love it that you put on you're bringing this up because I think it's really important, and I love that you reminded people in the home loan consultation, you have to bring up right away, that's your, part of your unique value proposition is that I'm your loan officer and I'm going to be looking after you after the transaction close. And you've got to add a sentence in there that's something along the lines of, even though if you work for someone who sells servicing, hey, even though you're eventually going to have your servicing sold to someone else who's going to collect your check every month, I'm still your loan officer. You have to actually tell them that because they think that that is their new loan officer, not you. And let me just throw a second piece out there, sort of from the coach's chair, right? We had Amir on maybe a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and he talked about something that, I always say what's old is new again. He talked about financial advisors and being important. And, one of the things that Deborah and I talk about when we teach exactly what to say is that we're trying to get our clients to have the courage to take action, right? It's after we create trust, then they can have the courage to take action. And I'm not talking about our clients right here. I'm talking about you. I want to know, did you take action after that call? After Amir said, hey, maybe you should be talking to financial advisors. Well, guess what? I don't do loans. And guess what? I took action. I get an email from a financial advisor. His signature says North Carolina on it. And I looked a little closer and I'm like, he's got an Arizona area code. So what did I do? I picked up the phone and called him. And the weirdest part was, he's like a big time financial advisor. Like he has high net worth business owner, entrepreneur strategies. So I kind of laughed when he picked up the phone himself and he just said, hello. I was like, what is this, Michael? Like, it was really weird, unprofessional. Like, please, if you say hello when you answer your business phone, just say like, hello, this is Todd. But the bottom line is I'm having coffee with him after the mortgage coach call next week. He's looking actually for mortgage people to refer business to. And guess what? I'm going to hit him up and talk to him about the First Home IQ content, because that's another database I can go after. Those are people who look to him for financial advice. And then if I can come alongside of him and teach our content to his clients and their kids, guess what? They already think that he's smart financially by default. They're going to think I'm smarter than I am financially too. So again, take what we're learning here and have the courage to take action. That's the bottom line. It was only one call. I probably could have made 10 calls and I probably could have gotten 10 appointments. You have the time, you should make that happen.
So let's try to make this actionable. So one, I want everybody to write down the 3 most important opportunities for you right now in 2025 that will help you win today and put you in a position to win by 2027 is your database. Number 1, like make sure that you are providing education. Right now, we're focusing on first-time home buyers, getting parents to help their kids get into homeownership, whether that is just purely through educational help or actual down payment assistance, which, by the way, is the best down payment assistance program in America, is Families Helping Families. Number 2, your realtors database. Like, you need to be able to convince your realtors, you know what? I can help you sell more homes in your database. And trust me, they don't have this strategy. They're not helping families, providing financial literacy, creating creative ways to house hack, help your kids buy a duplex. Like, that is not a topic that realtors are having at scale. And then number 3, your financial advisors database. Trust me, financial advisors want to work with mortgage professionals that are helping put people into homes earlier. And again, as a mortgage coach, I could spend a lot of time on it, but like, they're going to want to work with you. Like, when you show them your total cost analysis and how you help families build wealth with real estate. I did an interview a couple weeks ago with a loan officer that was helping an affluent family that wanted to put $1 million down on a home. He said, hey, let's look at it. If you just put $600,000 down and you kept that $400,000 with your financial advisor, what would your net worth be in 7 years? And their net worth looked a lot better. Financial advisors want to work with progressive mortgage professionals like this. So, Kristin, let's go through how a loan officer could build a database as a first home IQ ambassador, share the quiz, and then we're going to go into strategies around, okay, you've got this database, you're building it with realtors, with financial advisors, with the first home IQ quiz, and then we'll spend the last quarter of the call with tactics and strategies.
Cool. Yeah. So we have one of the strategies that a lot of people have been using in presentations is to share the first home IQ quiz, because for ambassadors, they have their own link to or own landing page with a first home IQ quiz, which measures your understanding of buying your first home. It's 15 questions, super simple. It's on their page like this. There's some additional education in here. But when someone completes this quiz, Amir gets emailed that person's name, email, and results. So it's a really easy way that we've had a lot of people, share this at the beginning of a presentation, or let me show an example. Oh, I guess I don't have it here. Michael Creed is someone who does this a lot, where he actually uses this a lot with financial advisors too, where he'll do a presentation with partners and say, hey, take this quiz and share this with your clients. And it's a way of kind of the train the trainer idea, but then he's collecting database, and it's a big part of the way that he's building database. From there, there's a lot of, we have, like I said, kind of email templates of like, here, set up now a series or just one-off presentation, send them this email out to your database, and especially those who have taken the quiz, and it's a great way to then engage them, and definitely, we talked about this earlier, but people are then doing presentations with their partners too. So anyway, did that cover kind of the areas that you wanted me to talk about?
So, guys, I just put a link to my quiz. So it's firsthomeIQ.com/Dave Savage. Take this by the end of the day. It'll take you less than 5 minutes, and you'll see what the experience is. And by the way, I will know who takes the quiz because, and I'm not going to do anything with the data, but I'll know how many of you did it, and I'll know how you scored. And just think, you could have that same quiz, it could have your name on it, and now you've got financial advisors, you've got realtors, you're out educating families, you're building your database with people that want to get homeownership ready. Also, we're seeing a lot of ambassadors use that for all their first-time home buyers. I mean, when you're taking the quiz, think about the value it would have to you as a mortgage professional, that if you just started giving that to all your customers. And by the way, there's a generic version of the quiz too. So if you don't want to be an ambassador, you can still share that quiz. You just won't be building your own database. Anything you want to add on that before we transition to other ways of being valuable to realtors and leveraging databases?
No, when it comes to first home IQ, I mean, what I loved about what you said, or basically what I heard and took away from it, is you're collecting data, you're collecting information, and you're doing so in a manner where you are also offering a service and you're offering education. The minute you offer education, you're building trust. And we all know what people do business with people. They don't do business with businesses. They do business with people, and they trust those people are tied in with the right companies. So no, I think it's an amazing resource, as well as a great tool for someone to grow their network.
Cool.
Actually, can I
Add to
share
that?
just, go ahead.
Go ahead, Kristin.
I was just going to share a couple data points that I think are really relevant to this conversation, because I've surveyed over 7,000 millennial and Gen Z consumers, and a few things come up really frequently. One is feeling that homeownership is out of reach. Over half think that it's not accessible. Over half don't feel confident in their own knowledge about personal finance or buying a home. And then there's this lack of trust. And I think I was mentioning this earlier, but people they're not trusting lenders or real estate agents to help them make smart decisions. And so how do you get beyond that? I do believe, just as Dustin was saying, like, it is about how to set yourself up as a community leader and an education leader. So anyway, I just wanted to share those couple of data points.
Awesome. Deb, I think you were going to jump in with something.
I was just putting in the chat that the biggest missing piece to most LOs or just professionals' social media strategy is they think posting is the strategy when it's lacking a content funnel. So make no mistake that your social media is just rented attention, because you don't own the social media. They could, just like TikTok could be going away on Sunday. You want to get people from follower to contact in your database because you actually own the database. So having a lead magnet or an assessment like First Home IQ, putting it in your link tree. I did put Todd's link tree in the chat so you guys can check his out as a great example of how you can have different links. And essentially you want to create these little micro bridges to get people from follower to then what's the next step? Is it to attend and register for a webinar? Is it to fill out an assessment? Is it to download a guide? But you have to have these micro bridges, because most people, when they're on social, and just because you say, call me, they're not going to get off social and be like, okay, let me go pick up my phone and put in this number and call, because they're online, but they may not be ready to go straight to like an application link or schedule a buyer consultation call. You need micro bridges to get people warmed up, to get closer and closer to you, but you also want to get their information and put it in a medium that you own.
Love that. Anything you guys want to add before we just start lightning round around different ways to need realtors less, for realtors to need us more? We could talk about how ideas on leveraging database. I've got at least one more idea I want to share, or we could go another round on stuff.
Well, no, the one thing I want to point out, and I missed it when I had my little advocate hat on. It's a fake hat because I'm not wearing a hat. But we have to also look at the political environment that we're going into, right? So whether you are loving the new administration, you loathe it, it's kind of irrelevant, right? It is what it is. But what I can tell you is going to be an environment of deregulation. And this time around, the administration is going to try their darndest to pull Fannie and Freddie out of conservatorship. And when and if that were to happen, which, I think you've had a guest on that I follow a lot. I wish I could remember his name. It wasn't Jim Dietich, but anyhow,
Brian Hale?
It may have been Brian,
Yeah.
who spoke on this. But the long story short is, and I've kind of come out of this rabbit hole, just know this: if Fannie and Freddie come out of conservatorship, the 30-year fixed interest rates go up. Okay, that is like almost a guarantee. When the 30-year fixed interest rates go up, then Fannie and Freddie will have less market share, which is what I think the administration wants, and a lot of people could argue for, but it's going to allow bigger business to come in, bigger data aggregators to come in. Like if we need more kind of fuel to our fire or more ammunition for us to go out and take this fight to the street, I think it's understanding that you have this going on where deregulation is going to allow for companies to get bigger. It's going to allow for the big boys to really flex their dominance with their money and their technology. If we get Fannie and Freddie out of conservatorship, then all of a sudden it's going to bring in even more private market, because the private market wants to come in for the right price. But right now they don't want to compete at Fannie and Freddie prices, so they're not there. In the private market, you're talking hedge funds, you're talking about multi-billion-dollar companies that we, the small man and woman on the street, are going to have to compete against. We're going to compete against by creating content, building trust online, giving one-to-many, leveraging First Home IQ, and really being our local community expert so that our consumer doesn't try to click button, get mortgage.
Love it.
So it just tells me, all of you who aren't following Deborah Bird on social media and Plug and Play SM, to figure this out now. The best day to plant an elm tree was 20 years ago. The next best day is today. So if you don't have a social strategy, today's the day to start, and Deborah's the person to follow.
It's funny, someone not being all in, I even call it social media, I call it online networking, because networking is the key to sales.
Yeah.
And it's not like this whole social media thing is new. We're going on 2 decades of it. And it's actually way easier, cheaper, and effective to network online than offline. Yet I still find there's men and women of all generations who, for whatever reason, want to be like to social media. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, this is your easiest and most effective way to get out there and network. We should be embracing it and doing it. And then if we do it, we'll eventually get better at it.
Yeah, it just makes me laugh, because I've gotten so many kudos for my social media, because now I have committed to recording my videos, right? So I do record the videos, and then Deborah and her team post them. So everyone thinks I'm great at social media. I'm just great at recording a 1 to 2 minute video on what's on my mind, every day. Some days I record 2 or 3, and then Deborah just makes me look really good. So thanks, D-Bird.
The one today was really good about the Pro Bowl. Are you going to be a loan officer in the Pro Bowl? Do you do the
Yeah.
work? Are you consistent with doing the work?
It's
Are
a new
you
series.
constantly building a database? Are you nurturing your database? Like, what are the things that if you were going to be, playing in the Super Bowl, what would it take? What skill set, mindset, leadership? And then are you working towards getting 1% better? You can tell I watch your videos, Todd.
Well, I appreciate that. It reminds me, I actually recorded one the other day, the next one in that series, and I haven't uploaded it, nor have I recorded the next one. So I've been distracted by my travels, but I will get those all to y'all. It's going to be a series. Deborah loves my series.
Hey, everyone, make sure you follow Todd Bookspun on Instagram. What are they, about a minute?
Minute to two. I'm typically like, a minute 30 right now.
Yeah, it seems a minute-ish to me, but they're
Just
just
like a man.
they're gold. And make sure you give it a like. If you're a manager, share it. Todd is being valuable on Instagram. I like the walk with talk.
I have a
Walk with Todd.
You walk with Todd. I have a thought that I think correlates greatly with today's topic, and it's really asking the originators, how do you show up online, right? If all of this is the fear that realtors will bring less value to us, meaning they'll be able to refer us less. That's what I mean. They will be able to refer us less. Then how am I showing up online? For 20 years, if I studied the mortgage industry, we haven't been the best with LO websites. We have not been the best with branch websites. And it's like, guys, that's 2004. That's over 20 years ago. What are we doing going forward? Because our competitors, whether they are tech companies, Redfin, Zillows, whatever they may be, our competitors have really good websites that have testimonials, they have content, they have free resources, they have geocodes and geofence, and they have stickiness, and they're retargeting ads back to everyone who's been there. And I think the originator of the future, that originator looking at 2030, and I don't care if you're a branch manager or you're a company owner, I think we have to ask ourselves, A, how do we show up online? Do we show up online? And then B, what are we doing to look like the big guys? And what are the big guys doing, right? The big guys are leveraging the trust engine type technology. The big guys have websites with stickiness. The big guys are running targeted ads. Like, I'm not a fan of a Facebook business page. I think for the most part, it's a placeholder. However, what if I could upload my past clients into my Facebook business page? What if I put a couple $100 a month to run in retargeted ads? What does that look like? I'm not trying to invite strangers to come do business with me. I'm just trying to remind the men and women that I've already helped understand and remember, I'm still here and I'm still here to help you. I think when we go down this rabbit hole of what does 2027, 2030 look like, I think some of these strategies at a minimum need to be on deck or in the hole. It might not be what's up at the plate right now, but in the back of your head, you need to be preparing for what is my branch, what is my company doing that's going to allow me to better show up online.
Love it. Well, we are getting into the 10-minute warning where we're going to wrap this up. I do want to call out Walt Schultz made a really smart comment up here. One of Deborah Bird's clients, mortgage coach, grand master, first home IQ ambassador. He put in
and a
here,
friend of mine
and friend of yours.
Yes. Hey, what's up, Walt?
What's up, Walt? But he said, take the first home IQ 10-week course and offer it to large companies to teach their employees and families. Walt, fire, like 5-star idea. Kristin, do we have resources?
Yeah, I was just thinking, so I was just talking with someone about the strategy this week. And about like, what else could we provide people to help them with that? I think it's kind of, you've got all the resources you need to be able to do that, but it's something maybe we could frame, have a discussion around. So
yeah, well, come to the next meeting, guys. Like, if you are not part of this community, Walt, we will make that a topic in our next monthly call. So stay tuned on that, and we'll create a whole little playbook around that. Folks, if you do have questions or you have a shout out, like an idea like Walt just did, now is the time to put it in chat before we run out of time. Also, just to make sure you guys are all paying attention, if we were a live audience, I'd say raise your hand, but instead we're virtual. So if you're on Zoom, give us a little reaction. Use one of those buttons, whichever one's on your, I'm going to give a heart, because I'm just feeling a lot of love.
Yeah. This has been fun.
Yeah,
I appreciate this.
Kristin, you were getting ready to say something?
Well, I just have a question. We're about to revamp our quiz and the landing page and all of that. And And, you know, we've used this as a way of knowledge building. Like, here's these questions. What questions do you have now that you've gone through this quiz? And they get the results at the end. But having gone through this process with this realtor, she does this quiz that's a get to know you kind of thing. And of course, you're home shopping, it's very different. But I was curious, Dustin, if you had thoughts on, or anyone here on, like, would it be helpful to get to know your client better? Like, if a lot of people use this quiz as a way to, before a consultation, and, you know, a way to like get to know them and talk about the results, would it be helpful to have questions in there about their anxiety around buying a home, or their knowledge, or their maybe not knowledge, because we're getting that, but the, you know, way you want to be communicated with, or any of that?
I love this concept, Kristin, because a new client intake form is not new, right? I mean, top producers have been using this for decades. And usually it was like, let me learn about your family. What's your favorite drink? So that way when they come in, I had their favorite drink ready to go.
Ford.
Well, yes, yeah.
Family,
Yep.
occupation.
Yep.
Okay, I didn't know about that.
But you're taken to the whole another level where, yes, why aren't we going back to teaching, having some kind of a new client intake form, but that form goes beyond, you know, where you grew up, what you like to do for a living. It's actually like, what freaks you the F out the most about this transaction, and what's most important to you, and how would you rate yourself on financial literacy? Besides obtaining a home loan, what's something else you would like to learn more about? And maybe give them options. Is it credit? Is it retirement savings? We as originators should know the basics, right? We should have read Richest Man in Babylon. We should know a thing or two about whether it's Dave Ramsey, Clark Howard, or Susie Orman, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Like, we should know those. So at a minimum, we can teach them. And then why not include that on your lead intake form? I think that's an amazing idea.
And
Oh, I'm excited.
guys, write this down. I'm going to give you a question that if you start asking it to every family that you talk to and that you're helping with a mortgage, whether it's a purchase or a refi, just the question itself is going to create differentiation. It's going to create a better connection. And you know what it's going to do? It's going to get you more loans and help realtors sell more homes. You ready for the question, guys? Start asking every family you serve, whether their kids are newborn, whether they have older kids, what is your home ownership plan for your kids? Like, what are you doing to help your kids get into home ownership? Here's the deal. Every financial planner in America asks, you know, when do you want to retire? And then they build their asset allocation around that. Every financial planner in America asks, what's your plan to pay for your kids' college education? But not every financial planner asks, what's the plan and the strategy? What are your goals in terms of your kids' home ownership plan? Guys, the average age of a first-time home buyer in America is 38 years old. I guarantee you that is not the dream that parents have for their kids, that their kids get their first home in their 30s. So start asking that question. By the way, start advocating to financial planners that they start asking that question. Like, that needs to become a question that we put intention around as an industry. Thoughts on that?
Well, my thought went to like very tactical geek out in the trenches. When you're talking about helping families and talking to financial advisors, my mind goes to almost a social media content, a class I could teach, a webinar I could do for one-to-many. It's like, how many originators on this call have taken that approach and said, I'm going to teach a class today on how parents can purchase a home in an LLC with 5% down and have their 529 pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, what do I mean? Well, it's a conventional loan, 5% down. As long as I can put my child on that home loan and it qualifies for the Fannie guides, I end up being the purchaser, but my child is the occupant, right? Back in the day, we called them kitty condos. We use an FHA loan for it. FHA loan won't let you do this next strategy, but conventional will. Once I own the home and I have personally guaranteed that home, I financed it in my personal name, but Fannie now allows, it didn't allow this back in the day, Dave, but they allow it now, that I can go ahead and transfer that into an LLC. But once it's in an LLC, I can enter into a rental agreement, me as the dad, into my LLC where I'm using my kid's 529 to pay for it. But that home may be very well the home I plan on gifting my son 5 years after he graduated, right? But it cost me 5% down plus closing costs. Although in today's market, I probably got the seller to pay my closing costs. So then it just cost me my 5% down. I financed it in my personal name. I transferred into an LLC. Then I used my kid's 529 to actually pay the LLC. At which point, when my kid graduates, I paid down the loan by roughly, let's just say $25,000. The home's gone up in value by, gosh, roughly $25,000. My kid has $50,000 in equity in a home that he owns. I now can figure out how to transfer that out of the LLC and into his name.
So first of all, you need to, with a total cost analysis, create a 5-minute course. And Kristin, we need to put that in the.
Yes,
in the
100%.
first
I was
one.
like, just even that clip, but
Yeah,
yeah.
we
if
can just
could
take
do
that clip. Yeah, we can
So
take
good.
that clip.
Please fact check me, right? Because I'm sitting here, funny. I'm sitting here and Dave will ask me a question, but what he doesn't know is that probably 90 seconds ago, I tuned him out because I went down some rabbit hole. And I'm so excited about the rabbit hole that I'm hoping that my answer is somewhat relevant to his question. But yes, you'll want to fact check that rabbit hole that I just went down with y'all. But as a originator, as a first home IQ ambassador, those are things that come to mind. Now, as Tammy's asking, like, hey, maybe we should start with what is a 529, right? Because there's many that don't even know what a 529 is. And I think as originators, we need to know what's a 401k, what's a 403b, what's a traditional IRA, what's a Roth IRA, how do I do a backdoor Roth IRA conversion, and then what's a 529 and who's it good for? We start with maybe some of that content, but then eventually it's like, who wants to geek out? And your course would be how to purchase a home for your kid for 5% down in the name of an LLC and eventually transfer that to your kid in 5 years once they show you a college degree with $50,000 of equity. That basically cost you, next to nothing to get into the home.
So here's what we're going to do. Todd, be ready to close out with a win by noon close. Kristin, 1 minute or less, you have a comment. And then Deborah Bird, 1 minute or less, give everybody a social media post idea, like based on what you've heard. What's the post?
I just put one in the chat as an example.
Okay.
So you guys rip off and duplicate the very example.
Okay.
Comparing
Kristin,
529 plan and real estate.
No, I don't have anything. Just there's a lot that we could go into on the ultimate goal of like teaching your kids how or helping your kids buy homes. So that's something let's do another time. So thanks for sharing that.
Well, by the way, that would be a great mastermind to just like, creative strategies for families to help their kids buy homes in their 20s. So we'll get that on the calendar.
All right, what's in the link you put there, Deb? What are we looking at if we click on that link?
It's comparing, if you buy, it was after our call that we did with Barbara, the tax strategist.
Yeah.
And it's comparing a 529 plan to real estate. And if you flip through the slides, it does a comparison that essentially if you do a cash out refi, so scroll to the right. So it shows this was option 1, shows the net worth monthly. Yeah.
Whoa.
And then it's tax-free. Yep.
So
and then
everybody click on this,
and then
take it.
Go back one slide.
Oh, so this is more or less saying don't do a 529, but find a way to put the money into real estate.
Right, because then you could borrow from the asset tax-free, which is going to appreciate and have more value than your 529 plan would have.
So basically, when your kid is born, buy an investment property. And then that investment property is what you're going to use to fund their education.
Yes.
Kind of like what I tell parents who have kids in like crazy travel sports. I said, I can guarantee you a full ride for your kid. Guaranteed. Take them out of travel sports, put them into whatever your local, Babe Ruth league is, let them play all-stars, take all of that money you're dumping into travel sports and put it into a 529 or go purchase a piece of real estate. And you're guaranteed your kid will have a full ride. Now, they won't have the memories. They won't have, the camaraderie and the life lessons that maybe some of that high-end competition taught them. But if we're talking finances, I think I'd prefer that as a guarantee over any kid getting a full ride.
And by the way, home ownership is guaranteed, like you're in the game. There's an argument to be said it's more important than a college education. But Todd, close us out.
All right, we got a lot of to-dos here, right? We got a lot of things that you need to think about because the bottom line is that I don't want you to watch this and not take action. Right? I mean, there's lots of things here that you can choose. So I want you to just, when you get done, pause for a minute before you check your phone, before you check your email, before you make your next call, right? Dave said before, hey, write down your top 3 things. So I want you to write down the top 3 things you took from the call. right, that you can take action on, right? That could be, hey, go sign up and take the First Home IQ quiz and then look at becoming a First Home IQ ambassador. It could be that I need social media help and going and checking out Plug and Play SM. I can tell you there's a couple of easy ones. If you're not a subscriber to Dustin's Owens
The Loan
Officer podcast, then I would recommend that you subscribe there on YouTube. I would be making sure, if you're not a subscriber on the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, that you subscribe there as well. And then just pick of those 3 things you wrote down, just take action on one, right? In the end, I really feel like that is where you have your frustration, and it's where I have my frustration when I think we bring on great guests like Dustin and Kristin, and Deborah and I commit our time, and Dave does as well. And you guys are all fired up, and then you just sail off into busyness. And so it's just your time to take action. I want you to be courage. I want you to have the courage. I want you to take action, and look forward to seeing you here live next week.
All right,
on the
guys.
recording.
All right, guys. And I'm gonna put one more little 15-minute thing for you to consider. On Monday, before I got on a plane and started my multiple city road tour, I recorded a 15-minute video on how to execute on the 5 biggest opportunities in 25. So 15 minutes, I put a link down below. Folks of you that are watching in Zoom, you could click on that link. Kristin, thank you for being here. Thank you for accommodating us. D Bird, always appreciate you. And Todd, let's go to lunch.
All
Take
right.
care, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.